catch first down?
Probably could have. I thought we can get to the line of scrimmage with our operation, be a little bit faster there, get them there without going on the fast on our ball, try to save that timeout. In hindsight, could have been a good decision or a better decision to take that timeout, but I wanted to have the opportunity to move up there. So, you can always second-guess those things. You can always second-guess those motives. You can always go back and look at him, see if you can get it snapped a little bit quicker. But I really believe we can get our operation time a little bit faster there to be able to save that timeout, still be able to click off, potentially get the pass interference, have a couple more snaps there, save the timeouts, and be able to use them there to get that field goal a little bit closer.
You could not hear the audio all the way in that clip. That was basically Raheem Morris coming out and saying that he thought that the players would have lined up quicker to snap the football. Raheem Morris should be fired for what happened last night against the Washington Commanders. I had to go back and watch the game a couple of times. The clock management with the NFL coaches today is just ridiculous. We saw this a month ago with Matt Eberflus and the Chicago Bears. We just saw this with the Chicago Bears this Thursday night against the Seattle Seahawks. But you guys know why I'm here, and I know why you're here. Let's talk about Raheem Morris and the Atlanta Falcons. Right now, the Atlanta Falcons, they're hoping that the New Orleans Saints will go out there and defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they're hoping that they can go out there and they can defeat the Carolina Panthers, because if the Atlanta Falcons defeat the Carolina Panthers next week and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose, they make the NFL playoffs. But if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win, it doesn't matter what happens with the Atlanta Falcons. You would have not been in this situation if you took care of business last night. They were up 17-7 in this matchup, and they lost this game because of coaching. Now, we can come on here, we can blame some of the players, but last night was coaching malpractice. Raheem Morris cost his team a football game. Late in the game, as you see right here, the play, Michael Penix Jr. throws a football straight to Drake London. This goes for a huge gain. It's 33 seconds left. Look at the two white scripts at the bottom of the screen with the Atlanta Falcons. Those are timeouts. They don't call a timeout. They wasted 16 seconds. Look at this situation right here. They snapped with 17 seconds left on the clock. You went from 33 to 17. You could have called a timeout with 33 seconds left, but you didn't. And you had 2 extra timeouts. Raheem Morris did something similar in the first half. They went out there, they settled for a field goal. You could have called timeouts, but you want to run the up-tempo offense because you didn't want to go out there and hurt your momentum. And I fully understand that. As a person that have seen guys go out there and they are rhythm throwers, their game is based off of momentum. I fully understand that. But when you have those timeouts and a young quarterback, a Michael Penix Jr., who has never been in this situation before, you call those timeouts. And the reason why I don't have that much patience with Raheem Morris right now, he did something similar against the New Orleans Saints. Not once, but twice this season. He also did this against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not once, but twice this year. But Kirk Cousins bailed him out at halftime and at the end of the game in overtime on Thursday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints. This man's been getting bailed out this entire season by very good play by Bijan Robinson and Michael Penix Jr. in these last 2 games, especially Bijan Robinson for the entire season because he's been an amazing running back. This is coaching malpractice. You can't be a head coach in the NFL if you can't use your timeouts wisely. Now, personally, if it's me, I would rather have more time than timeouts. I would rather have 1 minute and 15 seconds and 2 timeouts than have 50 seconds and 3 timeouts because you have more time to work with and use those timeouts wisely. When I look at Raheem Morris, he is the type of head coach. A 2-minute warning is essentially an extra timeout. This man will not call a timeout before a 2-minute warning if he has 3 timeouts left. He's going to try to go out there and just play through the game and let the game play on. Raheem Morris is a terrible head coach right now. When I look at this defense from last night, because I'll talk more about the offense in the next couple of seconds. Raheem Morris, former defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. Very good defensive coordinator. I will give him his credit there. Did a lot of good things with the Rams. Sean McVay speaks high of him. The same with Dan Quinn. He's such a great defensive mind. And Jimmy Lake is his defensive coordinator. Jaden Daniels last night is running all over the place. He had 127 rushing yards. He averaged 8 yards a carry. And he had 3 passing touchdowns, 227 passing yards. Now, he did get sacked 5 times. Why not put up a quarterback spy? Why not make that adjustment after halftime, even though you're up 17-7? Why not go out there and make that adjustment? Coach Tomlin did when they went against the Commanders. The Dallas Cowboys did a few weeks ago when they lost against the Dallas Cowboys. The Philadelphia Eagles did last week, and they did in their first encounter on Thursday Night Football. Why can't you go out there and do that? And if you're one of those fans that say, hey, he's the head coach, he's not the defensive play caller. Mike Tomlin is the head coach. He's not the defensive play caller. And he went to Coach Austin, let's put up a spy. He was mic'd up on the sideline and he said that. So when I look at Raheem Morris, why aren't you making defensive adjustments? Jimmy Lake has been a very underwhelming defensive coordinator all season long. For the first half of this season, this defense was getting chopped up over and over again. On the back half of the season, they have played better. But it's crucial situations like this that the Falcons don't show up. The players went out there, they did their jobs. They went out there, they played excellent in terms of for what the coaches asked them to do. Sometimes it doesn't come down to the players that's going against the coach. That's how you'll get benched. And if you give up a big play, the coach will throw you underneath the bus, just like how Raheem Morris essentially just threw his offense underneath the bus by saying, hey, I thought we were going to go up to the line quicker and snap the football. He's not taking accountability. You're sitting back in that man coverage all game long, and you have Zacchaeus. He's killing you all night long. 8 catches, 85 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. And Zach Ertz, he's giving you the business every single play. And you don't have any adjustments for it at halftime. None. So what are you getting paid for at this point as a head coach? What have you been working on all week long? There's enough film on Jaden Daniels. It's only one more game left in the season. You should have known what Jaden Daniels likes to do at this certain point in time of the season. You have to go out there and win this game. You control your destiny. And when I look at the players, I look at a guy like D. Alford. I don't understand why he was still on the field last night. He's getting burned repeatedly. They're not giving him help. And the reason why I'm upset and saying, why are you putting these guys in man coverage situations? For the ones that don't know, when you're in man coverage, linebackers and defensive backs, they don't have their eyes facing the quarterback. They're worried about a bunch of misdirection. They're worried about tight ends possibly crossing their face, and they're trying to cover their man. When you're in zone coverage, you can sit in your zone and you can sit back and you can pay attention to what's in front of you. But it's so much misdirection going on, so much motion going on with Cliff Kingsbury's offense to where those defensive players, they can't go back there and pay attention to Jaden Daniels. So when he does take off, the safety is deep down the field. The same with the linebackers. And we saw Cliff Kingsbury expose that defense all the way in the second half. They had guys going on check and releases. You had the tight end. He was blocking for a couple of seconds and then he goes up the field because you're playing man coverage. The man is unaccounted for. And I'm not saying go out there and play zone coverage the entire time, but Jimmy Lake had no problem sitting in zone coverage when Bo Nix was shredding his defense. He had no problem sitting in zone coverage when Derek Carr was going out there and shredding his defense also. Now I go back to the offensive end. Bijan Robinson had 2 rushing touchdowns at halftime. The man had 84 rushing yards. Bijan Robinson was iced out in the second half. The Washington Commanders' defensive strength is their pass game. They're a very good passing defense. They could not stop Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson ended the game with 90 rushing yards. That was it. And I do understand he had a fumble in this matchup. So what? You continue to feed him. He's been one of the best running backs in the NFL this season. You drafted him in the first round for a reason. Use him. This coaching staff looked just as worse as Arthur Smith did last season. You run the football with Bijan Robinson. And the Washington Commanders were smart. They beat him by time possession in the second half. And Michael Penix Jr. still found a way to go down there and tie the game up. And you got the football back. So the defensive players, they went out there, they did their jobs. They stopped Jaden Daniels when it mattered the most in the fourth quarter. In overtime, they were tired. They were on the field majority of the time in the second half. So they just drove down the field slowly, methodically. You got out-coached. That's on Raheem Morris. It doesn't take a rocket science to go out there and use your timeouts. And yes, the kicker, Patterson, he missed the field goal. Younghoe Koo is injured right now, but Younghoe Koo missed some essential and key field goals against the New Orleans Saints over a month ago. They lost that matchup, and we'll be talking about a different ball game here for the Falcons if he went out there and he made his kicks. But at the same time, the mismanagement of timeouts have put these players behind the 8 ball. We can blame the players, yes, but also let's blame the coaching. Tom Brady came out earlier this offseason and said there's a lot of mediocrity in the NFL at the quarterback position. How about these damn head coaches? We rarely hear about these head coaches and the dumb decisions that they make. They put players in terrible situations week in and week out, and they rarely get their feet held to the fire because they throw their players underneath the bus. I can't stand a coach that will go out there and not take accountability and will always blame his players. And I like Raheem Morris, but that was a BS statement. To go out there in the press conference and say, hey, I thought we were going to line up quicker. Maybe it would have changed the game. It would have changed the game. Coulda, shoulda, woulda doesn't win your football games in the NFL. But calling those timeouts, you get an extra look at the field. And it doesn't help that he called a timeout with just 7 seconds left. And the Atlanta Falcons got bailed out because if it wasn't for Michael Davis going out there and holding the wide receiver, they wouldn't have had the chance to go out there and attempt a field goal in the fourth quarter. Raheem Morris cost them this football game because of his bad coaching. Michael Penix Jr. did miss some key throws in the second half, but when they needed him the most, he stepped up. And Coach Robinson, one of the worst play calls I've seen all year long. They ran Wildcat. They went out there and ran Wildcat and they lost 20 yards on that play. And Michael Penix Jr. gets them right back in the scoring range, scores a touchdown with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts did have a bad moment last week to where the ball tipped out of his hands and it went for an interception, but he stepped up big last night. It's hard for me to come on here and blame the players. D. Offer did have an off night, but the Falcons had the chance to win this game. And that has been the case year in and year out with this organization. Terrible coaching with Arthur Smith, terrible coaching now with Raheem Morris. If the Atlanta Falcons do miss the NFL playoffs, I'm in favor of them firing Raheem Morris. And I'm not kidding right now. You can't go out there and have that type of moment. And this is not a first-year head coach in the NFL. He was an interim head coach with the Falcons. This man is a former head coach with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over a decade ago, so he understands the game. He knows what he's doing. He's been here before. And even if you are a rookie head coach in the NFL, stop making excuses for these guys. They have all offseason to practice this. They were former coordinators at a certain point in time. They shadowed head coaches before. They're former position coaches. They have been in situations like this before. They're not like rookie quarterbacks and rookie wide receivers. That's their first time ever playing in the NFL in their first year. It's not his first time coaching in the NFL. Even if you're a former defensive line coach, you understand clock management. You understand timeouts. You understand this at the high school level. You understand this at the college level. Even though the rules are different, you understand how essential timeouts are. So we could talk about how players now, they're not the same like how they were in the 90s and the 2000s. The coaching isn't the same either. Raheem Morris cost his team the NFL playoffs if they missed the NFL playoffs. And I will also say this. I don't know if it was Raheem Morris. I don't know if it was the owner, Arthur Blank, whoever decided to let Kirk Cousins continue to play after the first half in the Chargers game, they deserve to be fired. Now, Arthur Blank can't fire himself. Now, if it was all on Arthur Blank, he wanted to see what Kirk Cousins still had left in the tank after that first half, he should go out there and sell the team or hand off responsibilities to someone else. But if Raheem Morris was the one that wanted to go out there and keep Kirk Cousins around, he deserves to be fired for that because Michael Penix Jr. has looked better than Kirk Cousins in the last 2 games than Kirk Cousins has in the last 5 games. Just look at the Atlanta Falcons right now. You had the opportunity to go out there and retake control of this division, and you blew it. Now you're depending on someone else. You're depending on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go out there and lose against New Orleans Saints. And look at what the Buccaneers just did against the Carolina Panthers. Baker Mayfield had 5 passing touchdowns, and you defeated that team not once but twice with Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins looked excellent in those matchups. I can also go back to the Philadelphia Eagles game to where coaching was terrible, but Kirk Cousins saved them in the fourth quarter. He went out there and had a great game-winning drive. Against the Steelers, first game of the year, Coach Robinson did not have a game plan for TJ Watt. They're punching him in the mouth. And when they did go over there and they try to slide protection TJ Watt, here comes Alex Highsmith. They're not game planning. So what are you doing all week long? You're not game planning for the team's best players. And if you can't do that in the NFL, you can't be a coach. I'm sorry, you can't be. I've seen bad coaching by Arthur Smith, but the one thing that Arthur Smith did get right, your best player was not going to go out there and beat him on a consistent basis. And he was a terrible head coach with the Atlanta Falcons. He misused Bijan Robinson, but I will give that man his credit, even though I'm still not a big fan of Arthur Smith, even with the Steelers. He made sure that the opposing team's best player, you weren't going to go out there and kill him. And if you were giving him problems in the first half and the second half, you weren't going to give him the same problems because he made adjustments. And if a bad head coach like Arthur Smith can do that, there is no reason to why Raheem Morris can't do that either. And he has a very good defensive mind. It's laziness and it's you depending on your players too much. Look at what the Bengals just did against the Denver Broncos. Timeout with Zach Taylor. And I'm not even the biggest Zach Taylor fan. And the same with Sean Payton. They're using timeouts later part of the game to get an extra look. The fact that you wasted that timeout with just 7 seconds left because you were about to attempt a Hail Mary pass is ridiculous. But let me know in the comment section below How do you guys feel about Raheem Morris and the Atlanta Falcons, and should he be fired after this poor performance? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless.